Alright, so here's part 2 of the solving systems by graphing, the worksheet that's due, 15 through 19. I'm not planning on doing any mistakes on purpose, so if I make a mistake, it's completely an accident. Number 15 is 7x plus y equals 10. 3x minus 2y equals negative 3. Step 1, as always, we're going to make an xy chart. I'm going to start with negative 1, 0, and 1. I have 7x plus, instead of x, I'm going to put negative 1, so it's negative 7 plus y equals 10. I add 7 to both sides, I get y equals 17. Now I do 0. I get y equals 10. 1, I think it's going to be 3. Let's find out. I have 7 plus y equals 10. I subtract 7 from both sides, I get y equals 3. Now, I'm just going to do 2 and negative 4 because these are the 3 I will pick when I graph, so I don't have to change my scale. Now I'm going to pick the red line. I make my xy chart. I start with negative 1, 0, and 1. I plug in negative 1 for x, so I get negative 3 minus 2y equals negative 3. I add 3 to both sides, I get minus 2y equals 0. So y equals 0. Now I'm going to plug in 0. I get 0 minus 2y equals negative 3. So I divide both sides by negative 2, so I get y equals negative 1, or equals positive, because it's a negative, 1.5. So for 1.5. Now I think number 1 should be 3 when I plug in 1. So I have 3 times x, so that's 3 minus 2y equals negative 3. I subtract 3 from both sides, I get minus 2y equals minus 6. I divide both sides by 2, I get y equals positive 3, just like I thought. Alright, I'm going up by 1.5, so I will get 4.5. I get 3 and 6. Now, these are going to be the points that I graph because they don't have any fractions, and I just know you guys like stuff without fractions better. Alright, so I made my xy charts with the points I'm going to use. So I have 0, 10, so 0, 10 is probably right here. We go 1, 3, and then 2, negative 4. Alright, make my line. Now I do my red line. Negative 1, 0. I have 1, 3, and 3, 6. And I already can see where they're going to intersect. My solution is 1, 3 is the solution. Alright, and that's it for 15. Alright, so number 16, I have 1/3 x plus 7y equals 2. When I make my xy chart, because of that 3, so since 1/3, I'm going to use negative 3, 0, and positive 3 for my xy chart. It's just going to make it a little bit easier for me. So I plug in negative 3, that means I get negative 1 plus 7y equals 2. I add 1 to both sides, I get 7y equals 3, so y equals 3/7. Alright, I know I have a fraction answer, but it didn't have a bunch of hard work in my solving, so I'm okay with that. Now I plug in 0. I get 7y equals 2, so I get y equals 2/7. I think the next one's going to be 1/7. That's what I think, so I'm going to check it out. I'm going to plug in 3. I get 1 plus 7y equals 2. I subtract 1 from both sides, 7y equals 1, so y does equal 1/7. Right, I'm going to show you an easy way to graph this. So even though there's 7s in there, I left it as a fraction. It didn't make it a decimal, and it's going to actually be pretty easy to graph. So don't freak out about those fractions. Alright, do the same thing. I have x and y. I'm going to pick, since I have 2/3, I'm going to pick negative 3, 0, and 3. So negative 3, 0, and 3. I'm going to plug in negative 3. I get 2, negative 2x plus 14y equals 4. I add, it's not 2x, it's just negative 2. I'm silly. I add 2 to both sides, I get 14y equals 6. Divide by 14, I get y is equal to 6 over 14, or 3/7. Now I do 0. I get 14y equals 4, so I get y equals 4 over 14, or 2/7. I think the next one's going to be 1/7. I have 2x plus 14, not 2x, just 2, plus 14y equals 4. I subtract 2 from both sides, I get 14y equals 4, or equals 2, which is 1/7. So just like I thought, it's gonna be 1/7. So I don't even have to graph this to know that this is gonna be infinite solutions, because I picked the same points on the graph because the charts are the same. But I am going to show you an easy way to graph this. Since I have all 7s, that's a 7th. I'm going to make this all 7s. 3, that's 4 7s, 5 7s, 6 7s. I'm going to make this 1. So I just made the y's by 7s. It's going to make it really easy to graph. I go left 3, 1, 2, 3. I go up to 3 7s, 1, 2, 3 7s. Alright? 0, I have 2 7s. And 3, 1, 2, 3, I have 1/7. So there's my graph. Now, look, the black line is the exact same thing. So they're the exact same line. So that's why it's infinite solutions. And that's it for 16. Alright, so 17, I have negative 6x plus 2y equals 8. Y equals 3x plus 4. I'm going to do the exact same thing, negative 1, 0, 1. So I have positive 6 plus 2y equals 8. I subtract 6 from both sides. I get 2y equals negative 8. I'm sorry, not negative 8. I get 2y equals 2, so y equals 1. Alright. Now I plug in 0. 0 gives me 2y equals 8, so y equals 4. Alright. I'm thinking the next one's going to be 7, so let's find out. I plug in 1. I have 6 plus 2y. It's negative 6 plus 2y equals 8. Add 6 to both sides, I get 2y equals 14. So y is a 7, just like I thought. Now I make my XY chart. I'm going to do negative 1, 0, and 1. The reason I always do negative 1, 0, and 1 is because, like the last problem, when they were the same line, they had the exact same XY chart. So if I pick negative 1, 0, and 1, I try to pick negative 1, 0, and 1 to start. I get negative 1, 1, because 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. I get 0, 4, and I get 1, 7. The same XY chart. So I know it's infinite solutions. I'm still going to graph it anyhow, but I already know it's infinite solutions. So I have the XY chart is negative 1, 1, 0, 4, 1, 7, and that's for both. That's for both. So I go negative 1, 1, 0, 4, and 1, 7. And remember, that's for both. So technically, there's actually 2 lines here, even though it only looks like 1. So we say infinite solutions. And that's it for 17. All right, for 18, remember, since I have a fraction there, I'm going to use negative 4, 0, and 4 for my XY chart. So I make my XY chart, and that's the black line, the top one, negative 4, 0, and 4. So I plug in negative 4, I get negative 3 plus y equals 5. Add 3 to both sides, y is equal to 8. Now I'm going to plug in 0. I get y equals 5. I think it's going to be 2 when I plug in 4. Let's find out. So I get 3/4 times x, which is just 3, plus y equals 5. So I subtract 3 from both sides. Y is in fact 2. Now I'm going to make my XY chart. I'm still going to, because I used for negative 4, 0, and 4 here, I'm going to use the same thing here. Say negative 4, 0, and 4. I'm going to plug in negative 4 for x, so I get negative 12 plus 4y equals 2. I add 12 to both sides, I get 4y equals 14. I divide by 4, I get y equals 14 over 4 is 7 over 2, which is 3.5. I do 0. I get 4y equals 2, so I divide by 2, or divide by 4, I get y equals 1/2, or 0.5. I think the next one is going to be negative 2.5, because I think it's going down by 3, so let's hope that happens. I'm going to plug in 4. I get 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2y equals 2. Minus 12 from both sides, I get 2y equals negative 10. So it's a 4y. 4y equals negative 10. So y equals negative 2.5, just like I thought. All right. If you want to, you could put 2 and negative 2 and get no fractions, but I'm not going to do that. You would have to know that you're seeing it go by halves, and if I went by 2s, it'd go by 1.5, but that's a little bit tougher. So I'm just still going to use those ones. All right, so I know they're not infinite solutions because the charts don't match. So negative 4, I go up to 8, 0, 5, and then 4 up to 2. Now the red line, same concept. I go negative 4. This time I go up to 3.5. So I go 1, 2, 3. There's about 3.5. I go 0. I go up 1/2. There's about 1/2. I go 4. I go down negative 2.5. These look parallel, so there is no solution. A good way to know they are parallel is the difference between that one's 3, the difference between that one's 3. And that one's 3, that one's 3. They have the same rate of change, so they're never going to get any closer or farther from each other. So no solution. And that's it for 18. All right, so 19, I'm just going to use slope-intercept form, so I'm going to go for the red line. I'm going to go down to negative 5, put a dot. I'm going to go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. For the black line, I'm going to start at 3, 1, 2, 3. We go up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. They're parallel. So, no solutions. I could have done that without any work because they have the same slope. And that's it for 19. That finishes this worksheet.